Hello YouTube and welcome back to Around the Farm. So I started tinkering with the tractor here, just kind of looking at what I'm dealing with, looking for major leaks, looking for major problems. I can't find a darn dipstick on this thing, and there's a spot right here where it looks like there should be one, and there's not one there. And so I don't know if I got to take this cap off, if that's where you'd fill the oil. I'm not super familiar with these tractors anymore because, well, it's just not what we use most of at the farm, on the farm anymore. And so I'll figure out what the heck is going on there. I noticed that my steering shaft is kind of wonked out in that hole there, so we'll probably want to put a bushing in that hole at some point. I got a few hydraulic leaks here and there, but that's to be expected. The reservoir here is empty, which that didn't really surprise me either. So that reservoir will have to get filled up. And that is nothing more, from what I can tell, nothing more than a fill location, a fill reservoir, because there's no hoses coming back into that. And so you must just put a bunch in there, and when that runs empty, you put a bunch more in or something, who knows. But anyways, I was looking at the alternator, and the belt for the alternator, they just plain used a belt that was too short. And so the alternator was tight up against the valve cover here, and because of that, the belt was rubbing on the bottom of the thermostat housing there. Unfortunately, to put a different belt on it, you got to take that one off, and to get that one off, the fan has to come out, and the water pump packing has to come out, and all that fun stuff. And so I don't think that's going to be happening quite yet, but anyways, so that sucks. But what I'm going to try and figure out here is if there's a way I can do anything different with this bracket, just to make it sit a little lower so that it doesn't rub on that housing. But that's where I'm at right now. I really don't know what to think about the no dipstick thing, unless I'm just missing something, but I don't see one anywheres. So maybe that was an option on this engine, I don't know. But we'll keep digging and see what we find. Well, YouTube, I should probably start this episode off by saying I'm not sponsored by Henry's, but darn, this stuff is good. I'm not much of a beer drinker anymore, but I really like the Henry's Orange and the Not Your Father's Root Beer and that kind of stuff. Call them sissy drinks if you will, but I like to enjoy the taste of what I'm drinking instead of, drinking stuff that don't taste good. So, anyways, back to the tractor. Started digging, and I think I touched on this a little bit already, but the belt was rubbing right here. The belt for the alternator was rubbing, and I wasn't happy about that, and so I decided to take that belt off. And the only way to get that belt off is to loosen this sheave up right here. I didn't have any better way to take this belt tight and loose other than taking this sheave loose. And so this part is threaded here, and where my finger's at, you got a hammer on that, and this turns, and then as it turns, it opens up this sheave, kind of like a CVT clutch works, and then that belt falls further down in there. When that belt falls far enough in there, you can pull it off of that bottom pulley. Let me tell you, this thing sucked. I don't think that thing has ever been opened in a long time. You know, that could have been the factory belt on there for all I know. But I got it open. It's probably not open far enough yet. I'm going to replace that belt as long as I've got it off. There's no reason not to. As much work as it was to take it off, I'm just going to get it done. So, I got a little bit longer belt for this pulley, and hopefully it won't hit that anymore. If it does, I'll have to look into moving this mount somehow, moving it down a little bit. But hopefully it doesn't come to that. So, nothing huge. That belt should have probably been replaced anyways, so just get it done. It's a pain in the butt, but not a big deal. Something I can live with. So, while I was doing that, I needed to be able to turn the motor over. So in order to get rid of the compression, I took the spark plugs out. And the spark plugs looked like they should, in my opinion. They look like good used spark plugs. They weren't wet, they weren't oily, they weren't really carbon. Those are all good signs. The one, however, out of number 3, if you can see, the electrode is like way up inside the plug, and I have never seen that before. So I went into town tonight to O'Reilly's, and I got some new spark plugs, and I got a new set of points in case the points need to be redone. I don't know what they look like. I haven't taken the cap off yet, But it looks to me like somebody's gone through the system fairly recently because it's got a new coil on it. But anyways, that's kind of where we're at here. I checked out the lights. The lights work, so that's cool. I got a fuel filter. I'll put the fuel filter in. And then I checked the coolant level. The coolant level is pretty good. It'll be topped off, but it ain't bad. Hydraulic reservoir was empty. I don't know if I mentioned that in the earlier part of this video. But basically, this is just an overflow tank. And so I'll fill that up. And if the system needs more oil, it'll take it. And then when I lower the loader back down or whatever it may be, it'll just push it back into this tank. Like I said, that tank is empty, so we'll fill that tank up. Yeah, let's see what else. I haven't had a chance to look into the TA adjustment at all to see if the TA is bad or if it's just out of adjustment. But like I said, I'm counting on that being bad. I figured out the oil situation. The oil has to be drained, or the oil has to be checked. Instead of putting dipsticks on these things, they've got thumb screws on the oil pan here. And you open the top one. If the oil comes out of the top one, you're good. If no oil comes out of the top one and no oil comes out of the bottom one, you're a quart low. If no oil comes out of the bottom one, obviously you got to fill her up. So what I'll do is I'll check the oil level first to see if the level is good, and then the only way I'm going to be able to find out if there's any water in the oil is to pull the drain plug. And so because the water will naturally go to the bottom and the oil will sit on top. And so I plan on changing the oil in this thing anyways, and so I'll pull the drain plug and let a little bit out, see what it looks like. I'm hoping there's no water in it. I don't think there's any reason there should be. Everything seems to be checking out so far. I am going to run a quick compression test on it while I got the spark plugs out and everything's out of the way. So we'll get that done and see what we find out. Alright, well everyone, it's a couple days later, and I got my parts that I need. I took the valve cover off here, and I ran the rack. Everything seems to be set where it should be, and so I'm just going to leave it. I'm not going to play with it any. For those of you that don't know what running the rack means, it just means setting the valves. That's kind of the mechanic lingo for it, if you will. I looked in the INT that we have at work today, and it said that they need to be set at 17 thousandths when they're hot. And so, you know, you can set them a little bit bigger than that, or a little larger than that when they're cold, because they will expand when they're hot. But I have a tendency just to set them for that even when they're cold. And so what you'd do, normally you'd find top dead center on any given cylinder, but what you do then is when you've got your top dead center, you'll know it because both valves will be loose. Here you can see the intake valve is down and the exhaust valve is up. So this is not top dead center on this one. But since the exhaust valve is up, I can show you guys that the valve is set correctly. There's the perfect amount of drag on the feeler gauge. And so I don't think I checked every single one of them, but I checked almost all. I probably missed one or two of them maybe. But they all seem to be set right. And so unless I have an issue with the way the tractor's running, I'm just going to say that they're good. So anyways, we're going to get the valve cover put back on. I got a fan belt, so we'll put the fan belt back on, get the alternator back on, and add some hydraulic oil. We'll put the new spark plugs in, and I'll check the points and see if they need to be done, and we'll be ready to rock. Well, I got some sort of sucky news, guys. The alternator is back on. I put an inch longer belt on it, or approximately an inch, and the belt is no longer rubbing. On the bad side, the alternator it hits the hood, and so that's a little bit of a problem. And the hood will still go on, but it'll end up bending the hood a little bit. It doesn't actually hit the blades of the alternator, it just hits this nub right here. And so we'll see what I'm going to do here. I might take it loose, and I might see if I've got the next size down. A half size would be perfect, but I don't have one of those. So we'll have to see what we can do here. Alright, so that was an easy fix. I went back down to the next smaller belt, and I tried it again, and I got it on, and it actually does clear the water neck. And so we're just going to leave it with that. That's what I wanted to accomplish. Now let's see if we can get the fan belt on. Alright guys, I didn't expect that to work as good as it did, but I got the belt started on there, And if any of you guys have ever put a chain back on a bike sprocket, I got it started about halfway around, and then I just bumped the starter quick, and it put it right on. So now all I've got to do is get this sheave tightened up until the belt is tight, and then we'll drop the Allen screw back in there that holds it in place. Assuming, yep, I still got it right there. And we'll tighten that up, and the front end of it here will be done. Then we'll get spark plugs put in it, check the points, and we'll be ready to rock. All right, everyone, we're gonna call it a night. I got the thing running again. I did have a little bit of a scare. I pulled the cap off to look at the points, and then it wouldn't start again after that. And so I replaced a couple wires, and I put my new points in, and she started up, and she ran really darn good. It still misses a little bit. I think I need to play with the timing just a hair. But now when you get on the throttle, it takes right off. Yeah, the radiator cap is shot, so I'll get a new radiator cap for it. And I have to extend the overflow line down to the ground instead of right up at the top of the fan, so it blows water all over the place. That's why everything looks wet there. And the smoke you're seeing there is oil burning off of the exhaust manifold. There was a lot of oil and grease buildup on there. So anyways, yeah, that's where we're at. The brakes are working. They probably should have a little bit of adjustment, but no big deal. Oh, and I did find out one other good thing. I did not think the TA was working. I just found out it is. I just wasn't going fast enough at the time to notice the difference. I just took it out down the driveway, and I dropped the TA in, and it took off just like it should. So anyways, we're going to leave it at that for tonight. Lots of good news. Like I said, the thing's running good. I did notice a little bit of a jump in the temp gauge, so I'm thinking that means the temp gauge works. I'll bring my heat gun home from work tomorrow night and just double check and make sure we're not overheating it for any reason. And then here pretty soon we'll get the oil dropped. I was going to pull the plow in and take the wheels off of it, but the clevis that I bought for it is too small. I can't actually get it hooked to the hitch with the pin in the clevis, and so I'll have to come up with a different clevis. I think my wife's cousin's got one I could probably borrow from him. But anyways, so that's where we're going to wrap it up for tonight. Lots and lots of good news. I'm going to get the tin and everything back on it, and we'll be able to use her. So I added hydraulic fluid to it, and the loader lifted up as high as it should have, and everything worked there. So the PTO works. I tested that. PTO works good. Everything is good. The only thing that still sucks is the no power steering, and we'll see. Maybe that'll change. Maybe it won't. But anyways, thanks for watching. Please leave a like, share, subscribe, and check back for more.